Welcome back to the Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. It is May 2nd, so happy May to everybody. We're kicking things off here for this month with some more New Japan coverage. Wrestling Dontaku happened over on Sunday. I did stay up and watch the show, or I should say I woke up early to watch the show. I was going to record a podcast then, but I'm kind of glad I didn't because we have more news now than we did then, so it just makes sense to do it now. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing to the podcast and our YouTube channel. It depends on where you're listening to, obviously. But if you're on YouTube, we do have a podcast which covers AEW, Impact, New Japan, and occasionally WWE and NXT that you can find on Spotify, Stitcher, Anchor, Overcast. All of the links to the podcast feeds are in the episode description. So if you're listening on YouTube, go down to the description. You can find our actual podcast feed. If you're listening to this on our podcast feed, on a streaming service, you can find the link to our YouTube in the episode description as well. So, basically what I'm saying is, wherever you're listening, you should also go support us by following us on our other platforms, YouTube or the podcast. You can also follow us over on Twitter at Deep Six Wrestling, without the G. There's no G, just Deep Six Wrestling. And we do tweet over there. We tweet occasional thoughts. I think I put out one tweet for Wrestling Dontaku, which was just Rock Hard Juice Robinson. So you can follow us over there, and we also post when we do put up new episodes. So that's mainly what our Twitter is used for. But if you follow us, you can tweet us things. You can tweet us your thoughts. We'll respond. As pretty much all of us do have the login information for our Twitter. So you could get a response from any of us that are a part of the Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. But today it's just me, just Pat here. And I'm going to be talking about Wrestling Dontaku. We're also going to talk about the Best of the Super Juniors, which has its full lineup announced, as well as the schedule. And I will say now, before I get further in, that me, Ryan from the Impact Power Hour, and Joey are going to be doing predictions for the Best of the Super Juniors. We did some last year, I think, and I'm pretty sure we did it in 2020 as well. I think Rob was also a part of that. Maybe I'll see if we can get Rob to come back for Best of the Super Juniors, even though I don't know the last time he has watched a New Japan show. Probably Wrestle Kingdom 2021. So we'll see. But we will have predictions for like a preview prediction show where we just break down the tournament. We go over who we think's winning and all that good stuff. We will have that coming up in the next few days, I guess, whenever the three of us can find time to get together and record. So we will be predicting and previewing the Best of the Super Juniors tournament. And then we're also going to go over Dominion, because today, as I did mention, we did get the announcements of the Best of the Super Juniors schedule, as well as the Dominion matches. We got, I think, 4 matches announced for Dominion. So, yeah. For what it's worth, before we get too deep in this, just because it is wrestling news, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful did say that a notable talent from WWE has asked for their release. It hasn't come out who it is yet, but whenever we do another podcast, which will most likely be Wednesday for AEW Dynamite, we will talk about who it is, if they end up getting their release, if they don't, anything that, as well as other wrestling news. So if you're an AEW fan who's listening to this, come back on Wednesday or Thursday to check out our Dynamite review, and we'll go over any news that has gone on during the week. But this is going to be a shorter episode, just dedicated purely to New Japan stuff. So, without further ado, let's just get into things. We're going to start with Dontaku just because chronologically that came first, so it makes the most sense to go over that. So, I did tune in live to this show at 4 a.m. Eastern Time, and I do have to say, my hype was decently high for this one. This is the first New Japan show I'm watching live since Wrestle Kingdom, actually. And so, yeah, it just feels good to, have the drive to wake up super early to sit down and watch this live instead of, just taking it easy and waking up later to watch this at a normal time of day. But I have to say, I was excited for this show. Coming into this weekend, I was like, man, I can't wait for Dontaku. And I thought it delivered. I thought this was a wildly entertaining show from top to bottom. I'm sure mileage will vary for some in regards to the Bullet Club heavy show that this was. But for me personally, I thoroughly enjoyed it myself. This felt like New Japan saying, hey, we're going into the summer and we want to be big. We want to do some big things. We have this partnership with AEW. We have a partnership with Impact. We've been working with other promotions earlier in the year. And we're doing a stadium show, and we have the G1 coming up, we have Best of the Super Juniors coming up, we have Forbidden Door coming up, we have Capital Collision coming up, we have a bunch of stuff that we want to really get people talking, and I thought they did a really good job of that coming out of the show, and I think that they set up some interesting stuff, so we'll go over this. So the opening match was Suzuki-gun, represented by Tai Chi, Zack Sabre Jr., and Taka Michinoku, taking on LIJ, which was Shingo, Bushi, and it was supposed to be Tatsumi Fujinami, but he and Will Ospreay got COVID, so they were both off the show, and he was replaced by Shiro Koshinako, who we'd seen earlier in the year. I think it was the 50th anniversary show he was on. But so this was our opening match, and really the only notable thing coming out of this was Shingo and Tai Chi's feud is continuing for the KOPW, as Tai Chi did pick up the win for his team here, pinning Shingo. And so I have not seen their King of Pro Wrestling match. I have heard it's quite good, the 30 count match. So I will go out of my way in the next few days to go watch that on New Japan World, but I haven't seen it yet. I will say more Tai Chi and more Shingo. I like the guys together. Tai Chi and Shingo have good chemistry. I think Tai Chi and Tomohiro Ishii have my favorite chemistry for Tai Chi opponents, but Tai Chi and Shingo are cool together. So yeah, and King of Pro Wrestling, it kind of feels like it means something now by having this feud between Shingo Takagi and Tai Chi. So that's cool. I'm honestly kind of past the whole Yano phase of this, so I hope that you can always start off the year with Yano if you really need to, but I would like to see some more variety, and I'm glad that they're doing it here with Shingo and Tai Chi. So we'll see what happens. This could just, go nowhere, and it could just end up back on Toru Yano, but yeah. From there, we went to a special singles match, which is Hiromu Takahashi versus Yo. I did miss a portion of this match since I was making a snack at this point because I was hungry and wanted to have something to eat for the rest of the show. So, but this was a really short match for what I was expecting. Yeah, obviously it was one of the earlier undercard matches, but it's a singles match with Hiromu and Yo, who are two of the featured junior division guys. But this is kind of just like a sprint. These two just went at it for 10 minutes. And coming out of this, Hiromu won. He hit the time bomb, refused to pin Yo off of it, and then delivered the time bomb 2 in succession. He pinned him. And commentary, I think, so we'll go over this when we get to Best of the Super Juniors in a little bit, but commentary really put over Yo's loss here as feeling like a big deal, saying that, Yo's really fallen off and he needs to get back on the horse and prove himself. And they even said, but this was before the announcement for the lineup, that this loss could have, prevented Yo from making it into the tournament. So I do think that this is most likely going to come back and play a factor in this year's Best of the Super Juniors, and I think that's good. So, yeah. And we had, after the match, Hiromu left the Best of the Super Juniors trophy in the ring, symbolizing that, we're moving on to the next Best of the Super Juniors winner in just a couple weeks. So, yeah. We'll wait to talk about Best of the Super Juniors. I'll wait to talk about it until after the Junior Heavyweight Championship match. So we got the announcement before that, but just want to, at least I think we did, or did we get it right after? I don't remember when the announcement was, but we'll talk about it when we get there. Tanga Loa versus Yujiro Takahashi. Yujiro was out with Peter. I don't really have much to say on this one. Tanga Loa won and he beat up House of Torture. So, I mean, that's nice. Yeah. I really don't have much to say. I don't care about House of Torture. And Tanga Loa picking up a singles win over Yujiro was the correct decision. We did not need Yujiro beating Tanga Loa. The IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships were on the line with Team 6 or 9, Ryusuke Taguchi and Master Wato taking on Suzuki-gun, Kanemaru, and Doki. I did predict that Doki and Kanemaru were going to win this, and this continued a streak of me getting matches wrong. To kick off this show, I did get... I'm looking at this now, just trying to count this. I only got two matches on this show correct for my predictions. So I did not have a good time with my outcomes here. And I think that's for the best because it did provide probably a more entertaining show than I would have booked. But I will say I am a little upset that they didn't put the belts on Kanemaru and Doki. I do think that Doki has really proven himself in the past 2 years, and I do think he deserves the title. I thought him and Kanemaru would have been a nice, fresh pace for the junior tag, champions since they've never had them. I thought it would have been nice, but it is what it is. We're going into the Best of the Super Junior, so it's not like these titles are going to be on the line during this tournament. Coming out of the tournament, obviously they will be, but it's fine. I'll be okay without Doki being champion for right now. Hopefully, I don't see Doki winning the Best of the Super Juniors or anything, but I'd be happy to see him have a good run here. He's in the, I'm pretty sure he's in the lesser block, like the less stacked block, so, he could get some wins here. So we'll see. But yeah, Wato and Taguchi won, and Team 6 or 9 continues their reign of terror. From there, we moved on, and we got Bullet Club, Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens, Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi challenging the current IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, the United Empire, Great-O-Khan and Jeff Cobb, in a three-way match. Going into this, I was very confident that Okan and Cobb were going to retain here, and my thought was, they've really been pushing Great-O-Khan, and even Cobb. Like, Cobb over the last year has been getting quite the push, but they've been pushing Okan as like this big deal for his real life, just for what he did in his real life with saving that woman, and rightfully so. But I was surely not going to pick these two to lose in their first title defense, and then they did. They lost. They didn't get pinned, but they did lose. But my God, I would have guessed that Goto and Yoshihashi would have done it before, predicting that Bad Luck Fale and Chase Owens were going to win the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. This was wild. This came out of nowhere for me. This was the first, obviously I predicted the first 4 matches wrong, but this felt like a shock. I was just taken aback that I'm in a world now where Chase Owens and Bad Luck Fale are champions. And not just 6-man champs, they're the tag champs. As it was talked about during the show, they were very, very vocal about this being the anniversary of Bullet Club's formation. So I can't say that all of this would make sense by the end of the show, because this was basically a show-long angle that they were doing. But yeah, I was not expecting this. And for what it's worth, after the match, Okan and Cobb got back in the ring and confronted Chase and Fale, basically saying, we want a title shot. So it does seem like they will go back for these titles. So we'll see how long Chase and Fale hold these. I don't necessarily think they're going to have a super long run or anything, but it is interesting. And again, this is when I really just started waking up that we were going to be doing some interesting things on this show. And yeah, so new tag champs coming out of this. And that would send us into our next match, which was Evil defending the Never Openweight Championship against Tama Tonga. And obviously Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa have been feuding with House of Torture and Bullet Club after being kicked out by Jay White and the Good Brothers during one of the Impact shows. I don't remember which one it was. Maybe No Surrender? It was No Surrender or Sacrifice, I think. Regardless, this was a singles match. Tama Tonga's been on quite the run since last year's G1, and I actually really do like him as a babyface. I think that there is a lot of merit to him being a babyface wrestler, and I think him and Tonga Loa will probably be a better suited as, you know, faces moving forward. I feel like they've kind of done everything they could have in Bullet Club and everything they could have done as a heel unit. So I am happy that we're doing a new direction with them, and, you know, seeing them alongside guys like Tanahashi is just, I think it's really cool. And Tama Tonga got to beat Evil. This was so good for myself. I'm so done with Evil currently, and I don't want to say I'm just done with Evil forever, because, again, coming out of the show, I do think that we could get something interesting with Evil finally. But, you know, we still got to work to get there. It's not like it's coming up soon. Work needs to be done for Evil to be back on my radar as somebody that I could like, because I haven't been into it. He's had some matches that I've enjoyed, mainly during like G1 season. I will still preach the word of Evil and Yoshihashi having some of the most underrated chemistry in New Japan, but. I'm happy for Tama Tonga. I know he's not the most exciting wrestler for a lot of people, but again, I think the last year he's really put in the work and has shown that he has value, and I'm perfectly okay with him winning the Never Openweight Championship. Do I think his reign will be long? That's up for debate, because after this match we had another big thing happen as Gallows and Anderson, the Good Brothers, I don't know if they're still going by the Good Brothers in New Japan, but Carl Anderson, former G1 finalist Carl Anderson, and Doc Gallows would make their return to New Japan as they would lay out Tama Tonga in their Bullet Club shirts after the match, and Tonga Loa would come out and he'd also get laid out. And Gallows and Anderson would announce that they're back. Gallows would just kind of stand there, and Carl Anderson picked up the wrong championship. He picked up the never six-man belt, but he did stake a claim at Tama Tonga's Never Openweight Championship. So it does appear Tama Tonga versus Carl Anderson in a battle of the gun stuns will be coming our way. And yeah, it should be interesting. Gallows and Anderson, I know that they're a polarizing team for a lot of people. A lot of people think they're kind of boring or that they're not that great anymore. If you watch Impact Wrestling regularly for the past, I want to say 2-3 months, they've really turned it up. It feels like they are back into, we want to be one of the, you know, bigger tag teams in the world. We want to be talked about. They've been putting on some really good matches and performances. Like, it feels like they care again. It just feels like they're, you know, they want to deliver. And I appreciate that, because since they left WWE, it had not felt like that for a while in Impact. So, yeah. And even when they were in AEW, they were kind of just there. So I think this is good. You know, Gallows and Anderson in Bullet Club, it just makes sense, and especially because they were, again, talking about the anniversary, having them back here, it felt good. Again, mileage will vary. Some people just are not into the Good Brothers, and that's perfectly fine. If you don't like them, then you don't like them. But yeah, this was, again, another big thing for Bullet Club and another big thing for New Japan. And that would send us to our next title match, which was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship on the line with El Desperado of Suzuki-gun defending against another Bullet Club member, Taiji Ishimori, who had staked his claim a little bit ago. And we also saw the debut of Francesco Akira at that event, where he said he would see Ishimori and Desperado in the Best of the Super Juniors. Desperado, I love. I absolutely adore Desperado. I do think he is probably one of the best juniors in the company, and just, you know, one of the coolest looking wrestlers around. Ishimori is somebody who I have a love-hate relationship with. Sometimes I find him to be utterly just really boring and bland. And sometimes I think he really does deliver. And I think him and Desperado do have a good chemistry. And I also think Ishimori and Hiromu have good chemistry. It's hard not to have good chemistry with Hiromu, to be fair. But, yeah, I did enjoy their match here. It wasn't the best match on the show by any means. But it did come with a big surprising ending for me. I had Desperado retaining here. And Desperado did not retain here. In fact, Desperado would tap out. Ishimori would tap him out with the S-lock. And yeah, this was, again, just another surprising thing for me. Is like, going into the show, I wasn't thinking that, like, oh, like, I knew that, like, some people had been like, oh, you know, maybe Jay White's going to show up after the show or something, or he'll appear. But there was no confirmation of that. And there was no indication that Jay was going to be appearing on the show. It's just that we knew borders were opening up. Jay's been doing a lot more stuff with, you know, New Japan Strong. He's been doing Impact. He appeared on AEW the other week. But, you know, this would slowly continue. The whole ending of the show, like, from like the fifth match on, this was just Bullet Club, basically, which was wild to see, because, yeah, you know, Bullet Club's just kind of been hanging about during COVID, under the leadership of Evil, since Jay hasn't been in Japan. But we'll get to that. Taiji Ishimori won here, and again, good match. Not anything really excellent, but enjoyable. And that would send us to our final two matches, which was Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Tomohiro Ishii for the IWGP United States Championship, which was vacated from Sonata because he was injured. This was supposed to be Tanahashi and Ospreay, but as I mentioned before, Ospreay got COVID. This was phenomenal. These two just went at it for like 25 minutes. The crowd at multiple times just like broke the no noise rule and were just audibly gasping. This was really, really fucking good. Just from top to bottom, Ishii and Tanahashi went out here and had an absolute banger. That I would, I'd recommend going to watch these final two matches specifically from this show. But yeah, Tanahashi and Ishii really just came out here and said, yeah, we're going to just, you know, go as crazy as we want. And this was really good. Like, I enjoyed this thoroughly. This is coming off Ishii having kind of a disappointing showing against Jonah at Impact's last pay-per-view. And then having his match with Adam Cole, which was good, but he lost, obviously. And he would lose here, as is the case. I don't really think many people saw Ishii winning, though I did like that commentary pointed out that either way, whoever won this most likely had a title defense coming at Capital Collision, because Tanahashi is most likely facing Jon Moxley, and Tomohiro Ishii is facing Eddie Kingston. So they would have had two title matches already to go to. So at least them mentioning Eddie Kingston in that match, I think it did add a level of doubt where it's like, oh, you know, maybe Ishii will come out of this and he'll do his thing there. But Tanahashi would end up winning this for what it's worth, and rightfully so. I think most people are at the point where they just kind of want to get to Tanahashi and Jon Moxley. So I don't fault them for putting the belt on Tanahashi. Like, excuse me, but Ishii fans are going to, you know, obviously always be disappointed when the guy doesn't win the big singles match, but it is what it is at this point. And Tanahashi versus Moxley is the bigger match for the U.S. title. Following the match, Chase Owens would make his way down to the ring. Chase Owens, who does have a singles victory over Tanahashi from the G1 last year. And it looked like he was going to originally imply that he wanted a title shot, but that was not the case. A masked man wearing a flannel shirt would come down to the ring and blindside Hiroshi Tanahashi. This man was wearing a Bullet Club shirt as well, and I had no idea who this was when he first got in the ring. I was looking at his build and I was like, I don't recognize whoever this person is, so I had no idea what to expect. And I was genuinely shocked when the mask came off and it was Juice Robinson. Obviously, he has a history with Jay White. They have been rivals and enemies for years now. But he's also a former ally, a longtime ally of Hiroshi Tanahashi. And he also most, notably said that he was done with New Japan. He stated that he had signed a contract extension through April 30th. And then he was done. And he wouldn't be coming back to New Japan. And so this was genuinely really well done. Nobody saw this coming. The Juice was going to show up at this show unadvertised and a day after his contract expired and would be joining Bullet Club. So it does appear that Juice Robinson has, I don't know why I said that so weird, but Juice Robinson has, I guess, re-signed with New Japan and is now one of the new members of Bullet Club. So this was a big move for the company and a big move for Juice, who has been a babyface his entire run in New Japan. So, but at the same time, like, he's kind of just been there. So I think this is kind of make or break for Juice, where if he can pull off a big heel run here, that could be really big for the guy. I do think there is a chance he does become U.S. champion whenever him and Tanahashi do face off, or I guess if Moxley wins, whenever him and Moxley face off. And honestly, either of those outcomes, Moxley versus Juice, Moxley and Juice have a history. Tanahashi and Moxley continue to dance around each other. So there are some interesting outcomes here. And obviously, Juice is now in a faction with Bullet Club, and Moxley has created the Blackpool Combat Club with Danielson, Wheeler Yuta, and William Regal. So there's a lot of ways to go here. And I would assume eventually we will get a clash between Juice and David Finlay. We could see Finlay and Tanahashi teaming up against Juice and somebody from Bullet Club. So there's a lot of ways to go. So this was a really surprising but interesting move for me, and I'm not against it. So yeah, Juice is in Bullet Club, and this was, again, another big surprise. And that would send us into the main event. The IWGP World Heavyweight Championship was on the line as Kazuchika Okada and Tetsuya Naito faced off for the third time this year, with Okada winning the first match, which was for the title. Naito beating Okada in the New Japan Cup, which was the second match, and this would be the third. So they were 1-1 here, and they came out here, and these guys just casually put on a classic. This was phenomenal. I know some people were a little upset that this was the title match coming out of the New Japan Cup, or not coming out of the New Japan Cup, coming after Zack Sabre Jr.'s championship challenge, after winning the New Japan Cup. But it made sense. Again, this was Dontaku. This was a stadium show. You figured they wanted to put on a big match here. And it was a match that, with Forbidden Door and, with just everything going on and with them already having gone 1-1 this year, it was interesting because I think a lot of people did see the chance that Naito could win the title here. That was not the case. I thought this was really, really good, though. This was a fantastic main event. But Naito would eventually, he would fall. There were a lot of really good spots here. And, Naito always going for the Stardust Press will always be a fun time. And it's always such a good tease. But yeah, Naito lost here. I did have Naito winning, honestly. I thought that there was a really strong chance Naito would win. That wasn't the case. Actually, when I did predictions, I think I said Okada, but in the weeks ahead of this, I did think Naito was going to win. But when I did predictions before the show, I did say Okada. You can check it. Somebody can go back if they want to listen to the predictions. It's the episode before this. But regardless, this was great, and it makes sense that Okada won. Walking into Forbidden Door as champion. Again, not guaranteed. We'll get to that in a second, but at this point, it did appear that Okada was walking into Forbidden Door as IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. That may not be the case now, because after this was phenomenally done. This felt like, I mentioned this to Ryan and Joey last night, but this felt very similar to the ways that NXT takeovers used to end. So after the match, Okada would cut his post-match promo, talking to the crowd. He would then set off some pyro, and he would just start posing for the crowd, as the show's going off the air. Kevin Kelly and Chris Carlton would basically sign off, saying the show's over. And then Okada's music cut out as he was getting ready to leave the ring. And Jay White's music would hit. And Jay White would make his way down to ringside alongside basically all of Bullet Club. And Okada would be laid out here. And this is Jay White's first time appearing in New Japan in, I don't have the exact date, but they did say almost an entire year. Obviously, he's been on New Japan Strong, but they meant just in New Japan, in Japan. So it's crazy to see. It has been a while since we've seen Jay actually appear on a Japan broadcast. And this felt like a huge moment as Bullet Club's just standing in the ring. You see the gold on them. You see a new member in Juice. The Good Brothers are back. Jay's back. Ishimori has the tag gold, or not the tag gold, the junior gold. Chase and Fale have the tag titles. This was just like this was a crazy way to end the show. And Jay says that it's still his era, and he's going to be just like he single-handedly sold out Madison Square Garden. He's going to sell out Forbidden Door. He's going to walk in as IWGP World Heavyweight Champion after taking it from Okada, and he declares that he will be the next world champ. He also did shout out Chris Bay as they were leaving, so nice reference to Chris Bay, who I do hope gets to appear in Japan. I know some people are disappointed that he is not in the G1, or not G1, Best of the Super Juniors, excuse me. And that's fair, but at the same time, if you did put him in there, it was just going to feel a bit overwhelming Bullet Club-wise, since you already have Taiji Ishimori, Sho, and El Phantasmo. So that would have been a fourth Bullet Club member in there. I don't think he would have needed that, to be honest. So, yeah. But, again, top to bottom, I thought this was a very entertaining show. And doing this whole Bullet Club angle all show long where they were taking back the titles and making statements, and then having Jay come in at the end and basically just be like, I'm back. Bullet Club feels stronger than ever. There's a lot of intrigue, I think, going into Best of the Super Juniors with the lineup they announced. Dominion already looks interesting. Forbidden Door's coming up. After Forbidden Door, we have the G1. So it really does feel like New Japan's, back in a way. Now that the borders are kind of opened up and there's less restrictions, it just feels like more talent can come in and out. So, yeah. It's quite the exciting time. If you're going to check out this show, definitely check out Ishii and Tanahashi and Okada versus Naito. Tama Tonga and Evil, probably worth checking out. And then the rest, if you want to watch, you can. I would say, again, pretty much everything's good. It's just those are the three ones that you should probably really watch. And then maybe the tag team three-way, just because, again, that was a big deal that Fale and Owens won. All right, moving on. Let's talk things... let's talk Best of the Super Juniors here. So we did get the announcement of the lineup. So A Block has Taguchi, Yo, Clark Connors, Hiromu Takahashi, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, the X Division champion from Impact Wrestling, Ace Austin, Alex Zane, Francesco Akira, the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, Taiji Ishimori, and Sho. And B Block has Master Wato, Robbie Eagles, Titan from CMLL, Bushi, El Desperado, Doki, El Lindaman representing Strong Hearts, Wheeler Yuta from AEW, the current ROH Pure Division champion, TJP, and El Phantasmo. So pretty big lineup here. And I know that there was speculation on if AEW would have a representative or not. And some people said that they probably wouldn't just because they wanted Forbidden Door to be the first thing. And some people said they did just, because borders are opening up, so you could have done this. And here, sure enough, Wheeler Yuta made his way into the tournament. We also, again, Clark Connors is a big one coming back. Alex Zane showing up in actual Japan. This will be Francesco Akira's debut for the company. Ace Austin coming in as the X Division champion. That's pretty cool. Titan from CMLL is back. And El Lindaman from GLEAT and Strong Hearts. So, so we'll go through. I'm not going through the entire schedule for this, but I will go over the main events that New Japan posted. So, May 15th, we have Taiji Ishimori and Yo kicking things off in the main event. May 17th, Titan takes on El Desperado. May 18th, Hiromu Takahashi and Francesco Akira. May 19th, TJP and El Desperado. May 20th, Alex Zane and Taiji Ishimori. May 22nd, Wheeler Yuta versus El Desperado. May 24th, El Desperado and El Lindaman. I think there's a missing date in here, I believe. Because I'm pretty sure there's a show on the 25th. There's something on the 25th. I don't know why. There's no 25th listed here for the main event for some reason. Or wait. El Desperado. Oh, I see what it is. The 24th we have is when this begins Dual Nights. So The second half of the tournament will feature both A blocks and B blocks on the same night. So May 24th is El Desperado and El Lindaman and Sho and Taiji Ishimori. And then May 25th is Yo versus Hiromu and Master Wato versus El Desperado. May 26th, Robbie Eagles versus El Phantasmo and Hiromu versus Sho. May 28th, El Desperado versus Doki and Hiromu versus Alex Zane. May 29th, Robbie Eagles and El Desperado and Francesco Akira versus Taiji Ishimori. And then May 31st is the last night of the actual tournament. And then June 3rd at the Budokan, we will have the finals. So there you have it. So that's the lineup for Best of the Super Juniors. Looks really fun this year. I actually feel like I'll care this year because, again, this isn't a knock on New Japan. It was kind of out of their hands with COVID. But the last 2 years, the lineups just kind of felt really stale because it was just pretty much the same lineups back-to-back years, give or take a few. And this time we have people from, not regular New Japan appearing. We have Clark Connors, one of the Young Lions. We have Ace Austin, Alex Zane. We have the new face, which is Francesco Akira. And then we have Titan, Wheeler Yuta, El Lindaman, TJP. So yeah, I'm excited for this. It should be a good time. And reminder, again, this kicks off on May 15th. So, yeah. And then that sends us to Dominion. We have the card. We have, I believe, 4 matches announced for Dominion here. So most notably, we have Jay White versus Kazuchika Okada here, and so this is for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. I really don't know. I have no idea who's going to win this one. This is on June 12th, so this is a few weeks before the Forbidden Door, and obviously before the G1. I think that there's a very good chance Jay White does take this and walks into Forbidden Door as champion. That frees up Okada for a big singles match on that show, possibly challenging a champion in AEW. If Okada does not lose here, I think he walks into Forbidden Door champion and will probably defend the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against somebody, but we'll see. Tama Tonga will defend his Never Openweight Championship against Carl Anderson. The Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb are taking on Chase Owens and Bad Luck Fale for the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Titles, and Shingo Takagi and Tai Chi will go for the KOPW title. No stipulation yet announced, I believe. But yeah, so that's June 12th. So we have the Best of the Super Juniors, then we have the finals on June 3rd, I think it said, and then Dominion on the 12th, and then Forbidden Door on the 26th. I think it's the 26th of June. So, and then a couple weeks later, G1 begins. So a big next couple of months for New Japan. And sure enough, I did mention that at the beginning of the episode that somebody had asked for their release from WWE, and it has been reported who it is. And that person is Roderick Strong. Yeah, I can't say I'm that shocked. It is interesting that obviously, it was reported that Strong had re-signed with the company at the end of last year when obviously Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole did not, and Bobby Fish was released. So we could be seeing the final member of the Undisputed Era leaving WWE, which would be kind of wild, just like going back to like the height of them in like 2019 and telling NXT fans or AEW fans or just fans in general that all 4 of these guys are going to be gone from the company in the next 3 years. So that's kind of crazy. I love Roderick Strong. I think wherever he goes, Impact, AEW, New Japan, literally anywhere that man performs, he is so good. Though I do think most people would understand that he would end up in AEW. All of his friends are there. His wife is there. And that would allow him to work in New Japan. And I do have to say, I would like to see Roderick Strong wrestle a decent number of people in New Japan. The guy is a phenomenal in-ring talent. So yeah, anyways, thank you for joining me for this talk about Wrestling Dontaku, the Best of the Super Juniors, Forbidden Door, Dominion, and I guess Roderick Strong and AEW. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a thumbs up if you're on YouTube. Rate the podcast if you're on Apple or Spotify. Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to, whatever's going on. We appreciate it. So thank you for listening. We appreciate it. And I'll talk to you guys next time.